Beloveds, welcome to Unity. This is the place that we know and we practice. The essence of the divine is right where we are. And I am so grateful to know this truth with you all this morning. I am Reverend Marla Mason. It's a blessing and a privilege for me to serve as your minister today. I'm going to open with our reading from our book of the month. The book of the month is The 5 Principles by Ellen Davenport. And the 5 principles that she is describing in this book are the 5 unity principles. And so I'm starting by reading from page 21, where she is commenting on the history of oneness. Principle 1, and just so you know, principle 1 is God is absolute good everywhere present. Principle 1 maintains we are one with God, not separate, not being watched, but immersed in the divine. As the Apostle Paul told the Athenians, we live and move and have our being in God. And in oneness, God lives and moves and has expression as us. A God of oneness is transcendent, that is, within us and all around us. We are like fish in water, largely unaware of the sustaining force in which we exist. Our minds are schooled in duality, hot and cold, up and down, good and bad, us and them. When addressing this idea of oneness, the writer of the book of John resorted to the lyrical, mystical language. I am the vine, you are the branches. If someone remains in me and I in that person will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. The Buddhist sutras envisioned a net stretching in all directions. The Hopis spoke of Spider Grandmother who spun a great web connecting all things. To the ancient Chinese, it was the Tao, or the flow of the universe. The hymn of creation from the Hindu Rig Veda speaks of the absolute called Brahman and describes it as ultimate, eternal, and beyond human description. This is the ground of being, or infinite reality. We hear the names of God, Holy Spirit, the universe, the way, Father, Mother, Creator, Divine, one mind, source, energy, first cause, and thanks to Star Wars, the Force. It has been named Allah, Buddha, Christ, Kali, Shiva, Krishna, and Kuan Yin, all concepts of the divine. And now she is quoting from the Bhagavad Gita that says, by me is this entire universe pervaded. All things are in me, and I in them. Know that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests in the sky, all created beings rest in me. I am the Father, the Mother, the Supporter, and the Grand Sire of the universe. God is all there is. I'm going to read through today's affirmation once, and then I'll invite you to join me. Everywhere I look, I see the infinite presence of the living one. Grounded in oneness and unity, I see and know the truth. God is large and in charge, and heaven is at hand, and so it is. Please stand and join me with conviction. Everywhere I look, I see the infinite presence of the living one. Grounded in oneness and unity, I see and know the truth. God is large and in charge, and heaven is at hand, and so it is. Seriously, you guys, that's such a learning class, right? And the only way we learn is to practice. So come and join us in class sometime. Hey, Happy New Year. Happy New Decade. I'm so grateful to be on the planet in these interesting times, aren't you? I know people are going like, what is she talking about now? You know, I'm on this minister's listserv, and somebody posted this morning like that it just feels really hard to her sometimes with the conditions of the world right now. It feels really hard to her sometimes to stand up in front of people with a voice of hope and encouragement and truth. And although I just identified with her a little bit, But what she really prompted me to remember was that God is not the one to fix things. Who can fix things here on planet Earth? Frankly, God didn't mess it up. Who messed it up? So it is up to us to take the stand for what is right and good in the world. And today we are talking about our first principle. We are talking about the notion that God is absolute good everywhere present. And I have to tell you, sometimes I look out in the world and that doesn't seem quite right to me. Does it to you? You know what I'm saying? But I just feel like it's so important for us to remember that God is absolute good everywhere present. It is so important for us to remember that this infinite presence is infinite good. There is nothing against it. And we are created in its image and likeness, and so the life and the world we create is also good in the big picture. And the reason it doesn't look so good sometimes, I mean, there's kind of multi-layer reasons for that, but for me it kind of feels like the biggest reason has to do with the fact that we have free will. We get to choose. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be an automaton of God. You will be good. Oh, okay, and I'm good. I want to learn and grow and expand and lean into the experiences that don't look so good and see what they have to teach me and give me an opportunity to know something greater. Because I have free will. I was created with the ability to choose how I will live into life. And here's the thing, if God is all present, then it's where I am and it's where you are, and you also have free will to choose how you will live this life. And the decisions that we make every day impact our own lives, the lives of those around us, and ultimately, really, many of the decisions that we make every day impact the planet. Yes? So we have an opportunity here in this new year, this new decade, to really do something new. It's only a new year if we do something different, right? New, I looked it up in the dictionary because it's one of those little slippery words that means a lot of things, right? And the thing that really stuck out for me was actually the very first definition, new, being other than the former or old. New. Not being the former, not being the old. Then I don't know about you, but I wake up on New Year's Day and I'm thinking it would be really easy to be who I was yesterday. But what if I remembered the spiritual truth that God is good, and this good is everywhere present? And then I looked out at the world and I saw all the places where that doesn't seem quite right. And then I said, but you know what? I'm going to champion this notion that God is good and everywhere present. I am responsible by the choices I make for manifesting that good in all places, for I am created in the image and likeness of this infinite one. I too am creative. God is creative, I'm creative. I create my experience and I create the experience of the world, and collectively we create our collective experience. Happy New Year. What if we did? What if we thought? What if we simply decided to be something different? Because the former isn't working anymore, is it? The old is not working very well. We have a lot of evidence. Are we willing to be that divine presence of good in the world? Are we willing to, dare I say it, be more godlike? How many of you go, the old Lutheran in me goes, oh, that's heresy. Anybody go there? You know? But you know, one of the things she says in this book, she's like, we all create our own theology. Anything that the Lutherans ever taught me is the theology that they created around this notion of an infinite divine being. Anything that unity has ever taught me is just our ideas built around this notion of divine being. There is something greater than we are. I'm pretty certain about that. Beyond that, we're making it up. In our human experience of life, we're just kind of poking around trying to figure out what is that thing that animates us, that animates all things. And we begin to put language around it because that's who we are as humans. That's, we think in pictures and in words, and we begin to put language around it. And one of the sets of language that we put around it here in Unity is that God is infinite good everywhere present. So if I say, what if we just decided to be more godlike? Is it heresy to think, what if I were infinite good everywhere present? What if I were just a good person and made decisions every day that were life-affirming? That would be kind of godlike. In fact, it would be really godlike. And I see no heresy in that, in simply making a choice to be a better person. What if I be, rather than the former or the old in this new year, a better person? What if I simply be my divinity in the world? Love, grace, beauty, joy, and make my choices from that consciousness. You've heard it all before. I really can't tell you very much new, can I? What would love do? What would Jesus do? What would grace do? What would joy do? What if I lived from that place, from that consciousness? Ready? Let's go. But Mandy sang in her song about the seed, and it becomes a flower, right? We have to tend the seed. And so our task here today on the first Sunday of the new year is to plant the seed that will lead us into being better people in the year 2020. And here at Unity in the year 2020, we have a theme. 2020 spiritual vision. Living life through a spiritual lens. What if we set an intention today to live with 2020 spiritual vision, perfect spiritual vision, living life through a spiritual lens? What if we opened our eyes, our spiritual eyes, to seeing and knowing God is infinite good, everywhere present. I can choose to be infinite good. And I actually do believe we are everywhere present, because I believe I got a consciousness, and that consciousness is an energy, and you have a consciousness, and your consciousness is an energy, and there is one great consciousness, and all of our energies are that great consciousness. And so I too am everywhere present, in kind of a small way, but in enough of a way to experience a consciousness of oneness, a consciousness of infinite good. And as today's reading pointed out, this isn't a unity idea, is it? It's a very old idea. The Rig Veda, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Hopis. So many teachings understand that there is something greater than we are. There is a net of consciousness in which we are all participating. And as we lift ourselves and expand ourselves in consciousness, as we learn to live from the very heart of God, to open our minds and our hearts to being more godlike, to being better people, the world becomes a better place. And that's a powerful notion to me. And so we have a little exercise that I'm going to invite you to participate in today. When you came in, you should have received a piece of paper and a pen, or there's maybe a pen in the back of the chair in front of you. If you do not have that, I invite you to put your hands up in the air. If you do not have a little piece of paper and a pen, put your hand up in the air and get yourself one. Our ushers are going to get you outfitted. Today's message is entitled Release and Renew. And we are going to begin with release, because here's the thing. Have you ever tried, I don't know, how many of you, no, I'm not going to say that. Have you ever tried to put two pillows in one pillowcase? I've tried to do that. It was a lot of work, and I'm stuffing, and I never could get the second one all the way in there, right? You see, in order to get something else in, you got to take something out. Like I needed to take the first pillowcase out to get the second pillowcase in, or the first pillow out in order to get the second pillow in. Does that make sense? See, in order for there to be, we are a container of consciousness, right? And in order for there to be space in the container for something new, we got to let something go. It's so funny. I got a bunch of people this morning who usually sit over here are sitting over here. And it's the funny, and actually I see somebody over here who's usually, why are you guys, you're messing with me today. But what was interesting is I came up and I looked and I said, Maura, what are you doing over here? You know, and she said, you got to change things up sometimes, right? And it's interesting because she is sitting over here with beloved Daphne, and there's some empty chairs over here that aren't usually there, and they've created space for somebody to be over here, and in fact, there they are. Like, what are you guys doing over there? So what we have to do is create space by being willing to let things go. I don't know, there was a time, a number of years ago now, but I used to go to Center for Spiritual Living in Seattle as a congregant before I was a minister, and I had my chair. And there better not be somebody in my chair, because we're going to have to start negotiating, right? And I had to learn to let go of my chair, right? See, we have to learn to let go and be flexible more and more and more as our culture is changing, yes? So we have to learn to let go and practice releasing so that we can create the space into which the divine spirit can flow more fully. And it's usually our bloated nothingness. Emerson called it our bloated nothingness. Our human ideas, our ego ideas that need to be released in order for the divine idea to begin to make itself known more fully to us. And so in a moment, I'm going to invite you into just a brief little guided meditation. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. And I invite you to have that little piece of paper handy to briefly, in a phrase or a sentence, write down what comes to you out of this meditation. So what I want to invite you to do right now is just bring your attention to your breath. And feel your breath as it begins to flow in and out of your body. And to anchor in your inner wisdom, to recognize that there is only one mind, one heart. And that you are thinking now with the mind of God, that the very heart of God is beating your heart right now. And you relax and you open. And with each and every breath, you sink more deeply into your inner divinity, your inner wisdom. And as you make yourself available to the divine idea, begin to envision your life. What would your life be if you were more godlike? What would be happening in your life if you were infinite good everywhere present? And simply begin to picture in your mind what is happening in this good life that you live. What is happening with your family, your work or career. This better life, your relationships. What's happening? What are you doing? Where are you? As you live from your divinity, more godlike, good, peace, joy, love, guiding every decision, every thought. And now magnify this picture, this experience in your mind until it becomes completely real. You are living this good life. And in the felt reality of this life, ask yourself this question: what must I release to manifest this good life? What must I release? What must I let go of to become a better person? It could be a habit, a belief, a behavior, a way of thinking. What must I release? And whenever you're ready, gently open your eyes and briefly, in a phrase or a sentence, write down on your piece of paper what you must release. And as you write down what it is you must release, feel it beginning to drain from your consciousness. Feel it beginning to drain from your body. Begin to feel the physical, the mental, the emotional release of this habit, this way of thinking, this way of being. And begin to fully let it go by folding the piece of paper in half. And now fold it in half again and again, as many times as you need to fold it up, to begin to experience it fading into the nothingness from which it came. And when you're ready, I invite you to bring your piece of paper forward and know that this is a sacred piece of paper, and I understand that, and it is confidential, and it is safe. And I invite you to bring it forward and drop it into one of these two baskets. And I'm going to take it out to our island, and I'm going to burn it for you in a safe, enclosed burn. And when you drop it into the basket, pick up one white stone and take it back to your seat with you. And we will begin to practice a renewal. So whenever you're ready, simply come up front, drop your sacred and holy release into the basket, and pick up your white stone. that as you drop your release statement into this basket, it is indeed released.
And so we rest. We rest in the emptiness. We rest in the availability. We rest in the knowing that something greater than we are lives within, emanates from deep within. And we rest in this opening that we are creating to live a bigger life, to fulfill our beingness with the awareness of this infinite divinity. We rest in the truth that God is infinite good everywhere present. And we open our hearts to the possibility that we are good everywhere present. And now we have created an empty space for you, into which the divine good may flow. And I'm going to start with A verse from the book of Revelation, not a book that we quote a lot here at Unity. Revelation chapter 2, verse 17 says, "Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who is victorious, I will give hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, a name known only to the one who receives it." Do you have the ears to hear? I think you do. You've released something. You've created the space. You've said yes to the inner divinity expressing more fully as you. You have surrendered and rested in the opportunity that is placed before you to become more godlike this day. Open your spiritual ears. Have the ears to hear what the Spirit says to the churches. It's an interesting word, isn't it? Isn't the church where we congregate for our spiritual food? Isn't the church the place where we gather to grow and expand in consciousness, in spiritual consciousness? Listen to the message that's being given you in the spiritual consciousness, the expansion of your spiritual consciousness, the place where you go to learn and grow in God. To the one who is victorious, that is, do you want to live a better life? This isn't about winning a contest or a sports thing or something, even though I want the Seahawks to win this afternoon. This is not about that. This is about learning more fully who and whose we are. That is victory. That is spiritual victory. The one who is victorious, who goes deep with God, will receive hidden manna. I will give hidden manna. What is manna? The bread of life. Remember when the Hebrews were wandering in the desert for 40 years, the manna came down from heaven to feed them. The manna is the bread of life. And we're not just going to get the bread of life, that which feeds and sustains us. We're going to get the hidden bread of life, the hidden thing that sustains and feeds us. Have you ever wanted to know the secret? There's got to be a secret. How come? There's got to be, if I just knew this one spiritual thing, I will have arrived. Have you ever been there? If this workshop, I'm going to get it at this workshop. I'm going to get it at this class. I'm going to get it, Well, you know what? The hidden manna, the hidden bread of life, that which sustains, is simply inner wisdom. Yes, we go to things like church and workshops and classes and retreats to learn to open more fully to that inner wisdom. But hidden is just inner, or the deepest manna, the deepest bread of life. And as you create the space for the infinite something to show up, your inner wisdom will inform you of your new name. And it will be written on a white stone. White is purity always, right? And a stone, it's a foundation. We talk about the foundation stone, the cornerstone, the thing that holds the whole thing together. A white stone, a foundation stone of purity for the rest of your life, on which your new name is written. Now, it's an interesting thing about the Hebrews because, and even in the New Testament, a new name is always symbolic of deep inner transformation. Abraham got a new name. Sarah got a new name. Saul maybe got a new name. It's hard to interpret that from what we know. But each time the new name signified an inner transformation, a transformation in consciousness. What is a name? It's what you're known by, isn't it? It's what you're called. It's what you're known by. How do you want to be known? What do you want to be known by? And it says this is a secret name, a hidden name, known only to the one who receives it. I don't think that's necessarily that the name has to be a secret that you don't share with anybody, although if you want it to it could be that for you if you want. For me, it's more like when Jesus told him, go in the closet to pray. The people who pray out in the streets, it's like they're about ego. Go in the closet to pray. Let your name be known to others not by you telling everybody what your name is, but by how you be in the world. And so if your inner name is love, are you actually really being a source of love in the world? If your inner name is grace, are you actually being a source of grace in the world? And then people will know your name because you will be known for your grace. Yes? So what do you want to be known as? And so what I want to invite you to do right now is to turn within once again and to recall to mind that vision of your greater life. Your life that is open and sustained by the infinite presence of the living one. Bring to mind that life you began to envision a few minutes ago. And as you bring that life to mind, begin to see yourself living that good life. And again, notice what you're doing and who you are with and what it feels like to live that greater life, to be that better person, to be more godlike in your daily living. And again, magnify this awareness, this experience in your mind until it becomes completely real. And ask yourself this question. To manifest this greater life, what must I embrace? What must I embrace? What way of being? What way of thinking? What habits? What must I embrace such that I can live this full, God-like life? And as that awareness comes to your mind,